everyone, it's Sherry from Turquoise Dreaming. How you doing today? Welcome to my channel and thank you for joining me. I'm here today for Tassel Tuesday, but before I start my tassel explanation here, I want to say thank you to everyone for all your super nice comments on my last journals. The little dictionary journals. Everyone was so enthusiastic and so kind, and I really appreciate that. I really enjoyed working on those, and I'm glad everyone enjoyed them also. So anyway, so I am here for Tassel Tuesday, and this was like a collab started by Jovi at Creating with Jovi, and there's several participants now. So their channels are linked below in my description, and I also have been linking below tassels that I've made from scratch, so you can see how I kind of start one and put it together. This one I am going to explain how I made it, but I'm not doing it from scratch because it took me quite a while, first of all, to figure it out and then to make it, because I've never made one exactly like this before, but I've been wanting to. Like, I had this one in my head for a few weeks now, and so let me tell you about it. First of all, the tassel part here, it looks lacy, right? It's kind of a cream colored lacy tassel. And this was made from a vintage tablecloth. If you've seen, I know my mom had one, and I think she gave me one or something like that. I don't know if I still have it or it's my imagination. It's just she has one. But anyway, it was one that I picked up at a thrift store, but it had some stains on it, so that's why I think it had a hole in it too, so that's why someone got rid of it, of course. It had a stain, had a hole, they didn't want it anymore, they gave it to Goodwill. So I picked it up and cut it up into, and I think I put some in one of my fabric and trim bundles. I think I maybe have some tablecloth in there, or I'll be putting some in because I have a few of these now. So I took a square of it, and actually, I think did I rip it or cut it? I don't remember now. But anyway, I think I cut it because it's probably too delicate to try to rip, and it would just kind of probably rip right to pieces. As far as, the lace here, these little, it's not, like a piece of fabric where it's solid. If you try to rip this, it's just going to rip, in half. So anyway, long explanation. Sorry about that. But so I ripped or cut some pieces the length I wanted to make my tassel this week. And you can see it is just this tassel part right here is, let me tell you, the tassel part is about 6 inches long, just from the top right here. And then, so I used one of these bead caps again, a little silver bead cap here. And so how I made this was, you know how, if you've watched my other videos, how and the other tassel makers, a lot of times will spread your strips out, and then in the middle you put something, and you bring it up, you pull it up, tie a knot, and you've got your center tied off. Well, that's what I did with this, with a piece of lace, this tablecloth, a strip of the tablecloth. And then it's right here actually, I let it fall down as part of the tassel, okay? So, well, is that it? Anyway, it is part of, take my word for it, it's part of the tassel, okay? So that's the part that I gathered up this way, and then let that fall down. But at the same time, when I was tying it up with the strip of tablecloth, I used a piece of wax cord under there also. And I made that very long so that I would have plenty of room to string my beads here. So while I let the tablecloth piece fall down here, I picked up the wax cord and brought that up here, okay? So now I have this long, actually it was two, it was a folded piece, so it was two, it was one long one folded around. Sorry, I'm trying to explain it as best as I can. But so I have this long piece. I put on there my bead cap, and on one of the strings, I tied a knot or a double knot and cut one piece off. So now I just have one wax cord or wax string, whatever you want to call it, coming up here. So I just strung on my little bead cap and the beads I wanted here. Now the wax cord was not hard, but not easy either. It was a little, you know, I had to work with it to get my beads on here. You know what I mean? It didn't just go right through. I had to work with it and get them through these beads. But it did eventually go through. That took me a little while to work it through there, but I did get it through. And so I wanted these green beads on here to match my little heart. So you can see I have a bead cap, bead, and like a bead spacer, silver bead spacer, another bead, and another spacer. So that's the extent of my beads. And then I took a needle and threaded my wax cord and ran it through this little puffy heart I made. So I made this little puffy heart with a quilted piece of like I think it was a placemat, a quilted placemat or something like that. I don't have it here anymore. But it was a quilted piece like that, a placemat or something like that, that I picked up at a thrift store. And what I did was I wanted to sew on the outside, you know what I mean, for that kind of rustic heart kind of look, puffy heart look. So I sewed part of it around, and I have some stuffing, you know, from other projects, left from other projects, you know, that you stuff pillows and different things with. And so I stuffed, after I sewed it part way around, I left it open a little bit and I stuffed some of that stuffing in there. And then I finished sewing it around, and it's with my sewing machine. I did it with my sewing machine. I didn't do it by hand. But then I had myself a little puffy heart, right? So I, you know, had that needle and I threaded my wax cord, ran it up through here. So then I got my cord, wax cord, coming up out of the top. And then I put a few more, let's see, I put 3 more because I wanted to get my little lobster claw clasp here on the top. I wanted it above. I didn't want it buried down in here in between because I wanted it to be able to hang nicely. So I put 3 more of these these are really pretty little silver, you know, like this one, they look like different flowers and shapes and things. So they're really pretty little silver. I think they're called bead spacers. But there's 3 of those on there, so that lifted it up. And then I had a little bit more string where, well, I had quite a bit more string actually, and I put my little lobster claw clasp here on a jump ring, so it would still have some lift. And then just tied a knot on my wax cord right there. And then I had a little space here left. I was like, oh shoot, I didn't want that space there. You know what I mean? So then I put this little bow on here. You know what they say, you know, when we have a problem or an issue, we, you know, especially as crafters, we figure out a way to fix it. So I had this space and I said, do I take off the wax cord and tie it again so that my lobster claw clasp is lower? And I thought, let me just tie a little piece of this on there and see how it looks. And I think it looks actually more beautiful than it would have if I hadn't done that. So this is the whole thing. Let me see if it's in the camera. I think it is. So it's pretty long by the time, but it's so pretty, right? So it's from the top of the lobster claw clasp to the bottom of the tassel. It's about 11.5 inches long. But I hung it up here on I have a fan, ceiling fan up here in the middle of my room here, and I have a ball chain that comes down that I can pull and, you know, turn the light on or the fan on or whatever. Anyway, I hung it up there until I got ready to do this video, and it was so pretty. And so I thought, well, I would really like to make one on camera. So I started to do that, and I was like, no, it's just going to take too long. I'm just going to explain it. So that's what I'm doing. But I did start making the second one. And here's what I ended up doing. Another reason I didn't finish it was, see, I just cut that quilted placemat or whatever I cut these hearts from had the padding underneath, right? So I cut a piece out. It's really nice because it had the padding with it already. And I put a piece of vintage linen on the back. So it's kind of has that homespun look on the back, which I really like. Or you can cut 2 hearts and sew that together. But I wanted to try putting that homespun kind of linen look on the back here. So I did that on this one and this one. So as I was intending to make another tassel here, I started sewing my tassel, and I left part of it open, and then I realized this part right here, see this little divide right here where the two fabrics come to that together? On this one it was open, so I could stuffing up in there. On this one it was sewn together, and I was like, oh shoot, I can't get my stuffing up in there. I didn't realize that before I sewed it together, because I sewed it together. If I would have realized, I could have stuffed it over here and then sewed it together and then stuffed it over here and sewed it together, but I didn't realize until after I sewed it together, and I wasn't going to take it apart. I was like, oh goodness, you know, I was running out of time and things to do another one. So I said, let me just see, because I kind of wanted to make a tag with a heart also, and you know, being that it's kind of a padded heart was even better. I thought that would be just so pretty, and it really is. So I just took a piece of blue cardstock, because this has blue in it, blue and green. So these are kind of like my Valentine goodies here, except they're not red and pink, but they are hearts, and they can be for any time of year because they're kind of like shabby chic hearts. So yeah, I have my padded heart, and I did put the homespun or the vintage linen on the back of this one. But then as I was deciding to make a tag, see, I have my blue cardstock here, and I took a piece of that tablecloth again and put it, I just glued it over the top, just glued it on, and I let it hang down here over the edge. See how it's got about 3/4 an inch probably hanging over the end. I just thought that would look so pretty, like lace hanging over the end. I glued down, I had sewed this together already, so I just glued it down. And before I put this bow on right here, I sewed around, and you can see my zigzag stitching on the back. After I glued it down, it was, I mean, you don't have to sew it if you just want to make one of these without sewing, but I wanted to sew on it too, so I sewed it around there. And then I added another strip of the tablecloth and tied this bow separately, you know, from the tag. I tied myself a little bow and just glued it down right there. So that made a pretty little matching set here that you can see came from the same little placemat or whatever it was that I was cutting this from. And so if you have, you know, I hadn't really used any of my quilted pieces before, especially with the padding, because it was like, you know, I didn't know what I wanted to do with it, except when I thought of making these hearts, I was like, you know, really excited. So anyway, that's just something you can do with your, if you have padded quilted pieces that you've picked up. This is something you can do. You can cut little hearts or whatever shape you want and make a tassel like this, or put them on a tag, or you know, I'm sure there's lots of other things you can do with little quilted pieces like this. But I just had a lot of fun doing something different like this for the first time, as far as this kind of all these beads and a heart up here. That was my main thing. That was my main inspiration. I wanted a heart, a puffy heart on my tassel. So that was my main inspiration. That's where this started. And then all this other came out of, you know, wanting to make a puffy heart tassel. So this is going to be in my Etsy, this little set. I'm going to sell them together. If you need something like this, it'll be in there. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I kind of would like to make some more if I have time. So, you know, I have more of this, you know, whole placemat full of this little quilted fabric, and so I can make tags and tassels. And so yeah, hope I have some time to do that. So thank you for watching today. And if you have any questions, you know, about a particular part, like you didn't understand or wasn't clear or whatever, just ask me in the description or in the comments, and I'll try to either come back and show you or explain it, you know, better. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this week's Tuesday tassel. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Happy crafting.